And we're live. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Thursday, August 11th, not Friday. We're a little early because of some time off coming up for our team, but we wanted to make sure that we discussed all the lovely things that are going on in Apple World, like the battery percentage coming back in iOS 16 beta, but is it actually any good? We will discuss. Looking into Kim K's on the Apple scene now with some new Beats Fit Pro. So that's been interesting, and plenty of rumors to go around this week because this is the iMore show. I am your host, Luke Filipovich, writer for iMore, as always joined by my other lovely co-host, Stephen Warwick, who is our news editor at iMore. How you doing, Stephen?
I am well, thank you. Last day before I go off on a boat in Mallorca somewhere, so I am feeling good.
Feeling good right before vacation. You lucky duck. And joined by iMore contributor Karen Freeman, as always. How you doing, Karen?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Not too bad. You're also traveling right now, aren't you? Aren't you?
I am. I am in beautiful Denver, Colorado this week.
Nice. Awesome. And I am staying here in my little bubble. Actually, I am going to a cabin this weekend, and I'm stoked for that. The weather's supposed to be nice since that's right on the lake, so I'm going to take a dip in the lake, and it's going to be great. But moving on, there's so much to talk about this week, starting with one of the interesting tidbits that came out from the newest release of the developer iOS 16 beta is that there's now the battery percentage toggle is now back on your iPhone and will put the battery percentage up in the top corner in the status bar like it used to be. However, it's not quite the same as it used to be, which is having some mixed reactions online. So if you don't know, the most recent developer beta, which is the iOS 16 beta 5, it launched this week, and people started noticing if you go into your settings and go to your battery, you can put on a battery percentage. And this will change the battery logo in the top to always be full, either black or white, and have a number inside of it. So like the number would be the percent. So if it's like 74%, it'll say 74. It'll say 73. It'll go down. As you charge it, it'll go up. However, it's a bit of an interesting take on it because it's different than what we had before, and I feel like it's also a little less practical than it was before.
I'm writing an editorial on this one. I really do not like how Apple did this. Like you said, the battery logo always appears full no matter what the actual number is. So the whole point of having that icon was to have it going up and down. That's gone. It doesn't change color for the different. Like green is good, yellow is, watch it, your battery's getting low, red, your battery's about to die. That's all gone. So why even have it? Like, why not just have the number? So it doesn't make any sense to me. If they can't put them next to each other, then let us choose one or the other. Like, why not have different settings where we could choose? So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me how Apple did it.
I thought this was a brilliant idea because I didn't know that the battery didn't change. So I thought there was I must have seen concepts of people. I know there's been quite a divisive reaction to this. I know a lot of people have been saying here's a concept of how this should have actually worked. I must have only seen those because I didn't know that the battery remained full, regardless of what your battery status is. That's so strange. And so when you turn this on and off, if you turn it off, do you get the usual old battery that fills up and then drains? Is that right? Yeah. So you can pick between the two, but if you want a number, the number has to be in the battery, and the battery doesn't change color. It doesn't change. Yeah, that's absurd.
No. It'll change if you put your phone in low power mode. It will change to yellow.
Okay,
but that has nothing to do with what percentage your battery is. It's just an indication that you're in low power mode.
I suppose it's a bit of a trade-off because the reducing battery is a really clear visual indicator of is your battery half full, but you can only guess, can't you? It's you could maybe guess it's 75%, 50, 25, or 0. So the number is obviously a much more accurate reading.
Right.
Yeah,
But
especially
but
when
my point is, but my point is, if you're gonna have the number and the battery icon, the picture icon is going to be useless, then why not just remove it altogether and just put the number?
That's
You
a
know what I
good.
mean? Like, it doesn't serve
Yeah.
any purpose anymore other than to make it harder to read. When your phone is plugged in, when your phone is charging, the little lightning thing shows that it's charging, and the number is also in there. It's all squished in there, and it makes it very hard to read.
Yeah.
So
I
will
know
say-
what I saw this.
get rid of the
Go on,
battery
Luke,
thing
before it-
altogether.
Yeah, I will say, remember this is beta.
Yeah.
They are bringing back. I'm assuming it's probably going to get tweaked a little bit.
I hope
we'll see.
so.
We don't know, but
And the piece I'm writing, I said that I hope that Apple gives us choices, like give us the option of getting rid of the battery icon altogether, or having it inside, or having it next. Like why not let the user decide exactly how it should look?
what I find somewhat interesting about this too is that it doesn't work on all iPhones, right? So it works
and
on,
that's the other thing.
So
it
it works.
only works on it's the iPhone 13, the iPhone 13 Pro, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, not the iPhone 13 Mini. And it works on only the Pro Max versions of the 11 and 12, none of the other ones. And of course, it works on all the 14s, presumably it will work on all the 14s. But
yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting to me because, like, I mean, the original reason why they got rid of it when they put in the notch on the iPhone 10 was because they said they didn't have enough space. So if that's the reason, we all kind of thought we would get this back when the notch got a little smaller with the iPhone 13 models, and then it didn't. So when it first came back, I guess this week, I was like, okay, we're going to get this on the iPhone 13 models, and then it'll be on previous models. I have the beta on my iPhone 11, so I didn't expect to get it, and I didn't get it. And then I started hearing that it's on the Pro Max models of like the older stuff, which I guess, there's more space because it's bigger screen real estate. So I suppose that makes sense.
Why would it take more space?
I know
that's
the thing that doesn't make sense to me since the icon, I don't believe is much bigger. It must be to maybe a small degree, but it doesn't look like it would be impossible to fit on a status bar
of
a regular notch.
Maybe this is being tested in advance of the iPhone. It obviously has been tested in advance of the iPhone 14. We've talked about the iPhone 14, maybe getting the hole punch notch in the Pro models, right? And we've kind of said like, oh, what's the point of this? Like, it doesn't really. Maybe something like this, kind of like the notch in the old MacBook, the MacBook Pro from last year, where it's like, oh, it's got a notch, but then you see like, oh, well, that means we get like more space for your windows and your menu bar and stuff. Maybe this with the hole punch notch, because it will look less cluttered than the notch. Maybe this will only make sense on the iPhone 14 Pro when it comes out. But then that begs the question, why would Apple change it across the whole lineup? I saw a cool concept where it was like a battery indicator in the corner of the iPhone, but it was the circular, the complication from Apple Watch. So it's like a draining circle with a number inside. I don't know if there's enough space in the corner for that, but that to me seems like a clearer, because I think you're right, Karen. You need if you've got the number, I think you also need the visual indicator. I mean, you get used to it maybe, but the visual indicator is so helpful, I think, for a lot of people, especially in terms of accessibility as well, you have to imagine.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And the colors. The colors are important too, because you can tell even without reading a number or even registering anything, you can see if you have like your battery indicator is turned yellow or it's turned red, like
Yeah, 20%, 10%. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole other layer onto this that I find interesting is so Apple took this away like what? This was like 5 years ago now that the iPhone 10 launched, and so we haven't had it for 5 years. So we took time from getting used to the old way, which was the percentage and the battery. Then they took it away, and then we're like, okay, that sucked. But now we've gotten used to just the battery symbol, and now they've put it back, but they put it back in this way that makes both the percentage and the battery symbol less useful. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's beta. It's their first time putting it back. Maybe they're trying, like Steven said, I'm assuming future considerations about how it'll look and what they want to do with it, in future OSs and also with the future hardware that's coming out, much like we're expecting the iPhone 14 to have, some sort of abbreviated notch or some sort of punch out system or cutout system. So perhaps this is just like early testing to get it to a place that's that makes sense for the future, and they're not actually all that concerned about the past. But it seemed like a bit of a weird choice. It's like, I guess I'm glad it's back, because hopefully it means, it'll just get tweaked and it'll get better, and then it'll be, back for good kind of thing, in some sort of aspect. However they decide to do it, that's hopefully a little better than the implementation now. But it's also like, we had it fine 5 years ago, and then you took it away, and we kind of got used to it. And at this point, no one was really complaining about it anymore. Like, it's been 5 years, but now that they brought it back, it's just back in the forefront of everyone's mind, and everyone's experiencing it now for the first time, which I think is kind of funny. It's almost like Apple's their own worst enemy in some cases.
Yeah, it is. It's very silly.
Yeah, but you can check out sort of what it looks like on iMore.com, and you can see everything about that. Keep your eye out for Karen's editorial, probably coming sometime next week, something like that.
Hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, well, there you go. Moving on, we have some rumors that I think are worth talking about. That's for sure, especially as we're leading up to the September event. We're going to start with some Apple Watch rumors, because the Apple Watch Series 8 is changing up its colors and materials, which I think is interesting, because we haven't really had a major shakeup, especially when it comes to like finished materials, in quite a while. Steven, what's this rumor telling us right now?
Yeah, so this is from Shrimp Apple Pro on Twitter, who's actually quite an obscure leaker and a limit track record, but has been like bang on with a couple of things that nobody else was kind of onto. So emerging, but trustworthy at this stage, I would certainly say. And they're saying, so yeah, we're expecting the Series 8 and maybe an SE and like a Pro as well. So they're going to retain the same design. At least the Apple Watch Series 8 is right, compared to the 7, which retained the design from the Series 6. We possibly heard that one of the watches was getting a big change. It seems likely it won't be the Series 8. Colors, it sounds like the Series 8 is going to drop. So we have a blue and a green option, don't we, currently, for the aluminum, not aluminium. The options, those are going. And there will be a new silver option. Midnight, Starlight, and Product Red are apparently sticking around. The stainless steel watches, those are apparently going to drop. The gold colorway, retain graphite and silver. And apparently the titanium options are being dropped altogether for the standard Series 8 Apple Watch. Yeah. The one thing I suppose about the titanium aspect is we have heard that there's an Apple Watch Pro coming. It's previously been called like the rugged version or the Explorer. Slightly bigger, more battery life, aimed at the outdoors. Titanium possibly is quite an apt material and finish for those watches, because it's more rugged, more durable. So it's maybe that the titanium finish isn't going away, but it's just been moved over to that Apple Watch Pro lineup that we have. But yeah, a couple of colors out. It sounds like they're getting rid of more colors than they're bringing in, but who knows?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think it lends, if this is like, we've been hearing a lot about like an Apple Watch Pro or rugged or extreme sports, whatever you want to call it. And if you look at the competition that's around for that kind of category, for, more runner or more extreme, sports fit smartwatches, rather than something that's a smartwatch that also does fitness. If Apple's really trying to go that route, titanium really is kind of the material that a lot of the top dogs use, especially like Garmin, which is big in the space. And it is because it is just so light and durable. It just makes sense. Which was, it was always an option on an Apple Watch, which was, nice for people who, wanted it. And especially like the aluminum's quite light, but not as durable. And then you kind of have the stainless steel, which was like more durable but pretty heavy.
When people say heavy, it's not like, I've always had a stainless steel watch, and it's not like it weighs your wrist down or something. It's not heavy. It just sort of has more gravitas to it.
Yeah, and when I say heavy, I'm not saying heavy as in like I'm trying to lift, do a deadlift or something in the gym, but like
it's not going to affect an athlete. Let's put it that way.
Heavy as like it's a more noticeable, more sturdy like device,
Sure,
but then
I don't feel titanium throughout the day.
Titanium was always like the nice mix of that, the durability with like kind of the lightness. So
yeah.
it makes sense if they're getting rid of that just to move it over to the Pro, since we're probably expecting the Pro to be more money anyways, which the titanium finish always was. So I think this is like Steven said, that this leaker is somewhat limited in their scope, but what they've kind of provided us with so far has been pretty decent information, and I feel like this one seems like it's right on the money with everything that we've been hearing.
And I think dropping colors makes sense because you wear your watch every single day, and if you get like a green watch, but what if what you're wearing just doesn't match green, that shade of green? It seems like an odd choice to have colors for the watch itself. Colors in the bands, sure, because you can buy several bands and swap them out to match your outfit. But I mean, I would never buy a colorful Apple Watch, and I love color. I always want the phone with the most color, the computer with the most color, the iPad with the most color, but I would not want a colorful Apple Watch.
See, and the funny thing about that, I agree with you, Karen. I think like while it's kind of fun, I agree that there's a functionality aspect in terms of style and how it fits with kind of into your fit, I guess, as the kids say, that people take into consideration when putting on, any sort of watch, whether it's an Apple Watch or what have you. But one thing that I've always found weird was when they introduced like the midnight color is like, it's not quite black. Like it's pretty, like, don't get me wrong, it's a neutral color. It's going to fit in with pretty much everything.
Yeah, but it's between navy and black, and both navy and black are neutrals. So that's really a neutral. I don't consider that a color. Oh, is that what they're keeping midnight though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yes,
but I'm saying that it's interesting because between midnight and starlight, neither of those are quite exactly like black or white or black or silver.
No, but they're both super neutral. I mean, Starlight, I have the Starlight MacBook Air, and I would definitely consider it a neutral. It's like a beigey, goldy kind of color. It's super neutral.
Yeah, they're still neutral colors. I found it interesting that's the kind of what Apple's sticking with, especially when they were with, just kind of space gray and silver for so long. I like them personally. I think the midnight is a very nice shade, especially like when the light hits it just right. It has that slightly blue tinge, and I personally like that. But it is like not a true, black or a true.
Yeah, I would get a watch that color. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. I have the Series 7 in the midnight. And it's very nice. So I'm interested to hear that's what they're keeping around, kind of, rather than going back, which I'm glad for. But apparently there might be like a silver version of the aluminum as well, as we're hearing. So I'm curious at like how different that'll look than the Starlight, and it kind of seems a little similar to me, but it might look quite different because they do have like they're still neutrals, but they do have like noticeable tinges of some color, which I think is cool.
Remember as well, this is just for the this is just a leak about the Series 8, so we are possibly watch SE or the Pro. It could be completely different in terms of the colors and stuff like that. I wish they would bring back. I missed not like the gold like the $18,000 like those, but like the ceramic like edition watch and stuff. I really missed like having those nice. I mean, I never bought one, but like I really like those now. I wish they would do like just a little something extra in, like I said, not like an $18,000 gold watch. That was a bit much. Like looking back, that's pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, the ceramic one in particular, I think you can still buy them refurbished from Apple's website, to be honest. But it's like a Series 5, I think. So getting a bit long in the tooth. But yeah, I would love to see just a little bit more. I think Apple's done a really good job of making the Apple Watch accessible in terms of pricing, holding on to the Series 3, having the SE, that sort of thing. I think there's probably, and like a watch is one thing that you can justify like it being a stupid amount of money and like a really unreasonable price. It's like, oh, well, people spend thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on watches. So, you could maybe justify it. So yeah, let's see Apple go a little bit crazy.
I find it hard to justify I find it hard to justify a super expensive Apple Watch because those tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollar watches, those can be heirlooms. Like they
last for years.
Those are forever watches. You pass those down to your children or your grandchildren. Mm-hmm. You're not passing an Apple Watch down to your kids.
No.
Yeah.
3 years.
If you are, stop it. Yeah.
Nobody wants your original Apple Watch. Okay. Grandpa.
Right.
Nobody wants
Not
it.
unless it's in mint condition in the box still or something.
Yeah, sealed maybe.
Factory sealed. Maybe we'll hold on to it for like numbers of years, and we'll see. But other than that, no one wants Grandpa's old Apple Watch Series 0. It's not going to be useful.
But Grandpa's old Rolex, yes, very much.
Or pocket watch. I recently got a pocket watch from my papa as he passed, which was really nice. So I agree with you. There's regular watches still have that, like, it's a physical thing that doesn't need any sort of software to make what it does or do properly. But that was a sentence apparently. But
smashed it. Keep going.
Yeah, but Apple Watch is obviously dependent on software, so it's like you can't pass that down forever unless you're just passing down literally a brick that does nothing, a very small brick that does nothing. Moving on, though, we kind of touched a bit on this last week, but a bit of an update from Mark Gurman about when we are expected to see the new software. So iOS 16 and iOS 9 should be coming in September, according to Mark Berman on his latest Power On newsletter. But both macOS Ventura and iPadOS 16 will be in October, which was the news last week, was sort of that iPadOS had been delayed, which is it delayed if they
delayed?
Yeah. We were somewhat expecting it around September, was kind of, I think, the general consensus, but then it has now sort of switched to no, it's going to be in October. So it's a bit of an internal delay. But that's also when we're probably going to see actual iPads again. If we're seeing
this
another
sort of
iPad
ties
Pro.
in, with we get the phone and the watch in September with the new software, because they always come at the same time. And then new iPads, new Macs, whatever that may be, in October again with the new software. I thought this was interesting though, because Mark actually made this point in his newsletter too. This will be like strange, because if we get iOS 16 in September and watchOS 9, there are going to be some features, for instance, like recalling iMessages. It's like if you've got like a phone and an iPad and you upgrade to iOS 16, there's going to be some quirks and just general like jeopardy. I think if you've got like if you're on iOS 16 on your phone and you're not recalling an iMessage or editing it and stuff like that, is that going to work on your iPad if that's still running iPadOS 15? So just something to bear in mind. I think I wonder if Apple has thought of that. But if we do get these in September and October, like this says, if you run the whole ecosystem and you need it to be seamless, especially if you're using it for work, or just generally very important kind of correspondence, might be worth hanging on until all of the software is out and you can upgrade the whole ecosystem, because there will be some things that kind of depend on all of your devices being on the same page. So iCloud shared photo library, for instance, do
you think Apple will hold back some of those features that require all of your devices to be in sync?
It's possible. I mean, Apple has delayed Universal Control, right? That didn't come out when Mac OS came out. Whenever that was, last year.
For example, the home screen changes that people are excited about, Apple could go ahead and release that in September, and then the other features,
you get like most of it.
Could maybe they'll hold off on that until the
that
iPad.
Would probably, as much as people might be disappointed by that would probably be preferable to having I've edited this iMessage
not work right.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing worse than your Apple devices not syncing properly. That's like my biggest frustration.
And a great way for that not to happen is to be on like different versions of 16 versus 15, iOS, iPadOS, that sort of thing.
Right.
That is a good point. To bring up that there are these features that are kind of like with almost every iOS and iPadOS that comes out that are supposed to be a cross-platform, if you will, across both of them. And if they do kind of just launch iOS 16 no holds barred, there will be a bit of those hangups. I wonder how many people actually care. Like, it's not that there aren't people that do, like Karen, you just mentioned, when they don't sync up properly, it's frustrating, and I agree with you. But like, I don't know, I as someone who's been using the multiple devices now, I guess, for a while, like devices that are still on iPadOS 15 or iOS 15, and I have some beta devices and stuff, like it's kind of just part of the process, but that is also the beta process. So when you officially launch something, it is a bit of a different expectation in consumers' minds. So I'm curious
Right.
if
You've got to, yeah.
I am curious if they're going to if that is something they will hold back. Maybe they will hold back some of the messaging stuff just to
I will say
that it
though,
doesn't mess anything up.
I do have the beta on my phone and my watch, and I don't have it on my iPad, and I haven't had any issues with syncing. Everything has been totally fine, actually.
Yeah.
So
It is. I think it's
so like
just
the
because
messaging thing, it works on my phone, and I mean, yeah, sure, I can't do it on my iPad, but it's still syncs
Right.
out. Everything
Yeah.
still syncs fine.
I think it's probably as well, it's quite a small, probably minuscule percentile of users who are on either developers or public betas. Whereas once Apple releases a software, all iPhone users over 4 or 6 week kind of period get a, hey, you should upgrade to iOS 16. So you can obviously multiply how many, exponentially how many people are running the new software and stuff. So it might also be one that you uncover the kind of the full scale of how awkward or difficult it might be until everybody all of a sudden starts running it. But yeah, it's
Right.
it all makes sense, and yeah, like you said, it's not like Apple has promised us X, Y, and Z in September and then October. It always says the fall. It's always nebulous. But if Mark Gurman also makes the point, Apple will have very specific internal kind of targets for this. So yeah, exciting stuff. I'm excited to get my hands on the new software because I don't really dabble in the betas, but iOS 16 is the first one I've been very excited about, I think, in a good while. So yeah.
It is. I really like it.
Yeah, and I am curious. Apple always likes to release usually around the time the new, a few weeks after. Maybe it might even be a few months now that I'm thinking about. But part of their thing is they always release when their kind of projected numbers of people who have jumped over OSs, right? Have actually upgraded, because some people do hold out for various reasons every year, right? So that's always kind of a bit of a number for their shareholders too and stuff, to see like how well is their new
it's always something crazy software. It's always like 80 something %, like pushing 90% within just a few weeks. It's always mad.
I mean, it's helpful that Apple controls all that stuff, right? Unlike the Android landscape, which is very, very segmented. When Apple kind of has that quality control with their software updates, I think it makes people a lot more willing to hit that update button every time, because they know that
the remarkable thing is go on, Karen.
On the other end of the spectrum, the young woman who was cutting my hair the other day told me that when I told her what I did, she told me that her phone wasn't working because, of course, I instantly become everyone's tech support. She told me her phone wasn't working properly and it was doing something funky. And I said, are you on the latest software? Have you done the latest software update? That might take care of the bug. And she's like, no, I don't think so. And I said, well, when was the last time you updated it? She goes, about 2 years ago. I'm like, oh. She's like, I'm scared to do the updates because it might mess up my phone. I'm like, oh, honey, your phone is not ever going to work properly if you don't keep up.
Your phone is messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Especially since people, the other thing is security updates are important, and that happens.
I did tell her that.
And stuff.
That's usually the one thing that'll convince people to do. If I just say, oh no, it's fine, they won't do it. But if I say, if you don't do it, you might run into a security issue. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. Before we continue, Karen, why don't you tell us about a sponsor of ours?
Yes. Have you ever hit a technical snafu shopping online? Has filling out payment fields given you a headache? Has a mobile banking app even been down when you wanted to use it? Capital One believes everyone deserves better banking. This means easier access to their money and more security. That's why Capital One is investing in machine learning. Machine learning allows Capital One to do things like fight fraud with random forests. Models quickly detect suspicious activity and make it faster to alert federal investigators. Identify how mobile app outages happen with causal models. Keeping our mobile app up and running doesn't happen by accident. Anomaly detection and incident response help determine why app outages happen so engineers can quickly remedy them. Speed up online shopping with machine learning at the edge. Make shopping with virtual card numbers smoother and more secure. This technology is based on logistic regression models and running inference in the browser. It identifies payment fields, which helps make using virtual card numbers easier and faster. The potential of machine learning is so big. See how Capital One is using machine learning to create the future of banking. Search machine learning at Capital One. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Capital One, for sponsoring the iMore show. Talking about the event, we believe it's that Apple has started recording its actual event, since it will be a pre-recorded presentation once again. And I'm kind of surprised by this. If they're actually just starting to record it now, I feel like wouldn't it have been recorded forever ago?
Like it should have been recording, months ago, for sure.
I think there's probably, because there'll be like software elements to it in terms of like, hey, you can do this with the iPhone, such and such, and also supply chain. That has become increasingly quite a big headache for Apple in recent years, especially the first year of COVID with iPhone 12 that delayed the iPhone, last year with iPhone 13 that was in quite short supply, and possibly this year with it being in short supply again. So I know they can kind of chop bits up and change it and stuff, but they're probably mindful of what, when they're recording the event, they need to be able to say like, here is when it will be available and such and such. So there are some decisions I think that are probably still quite fluid up until, launch time. That kind of makes sense. But yeah, Apple's apparently started recording it. This was surprising to me, Luke, like you said, and no one really, I guess we just expected it, so it wasn't quite a big deal. But this is another pre-recorded virtual event, and it feels like, so Apple did this in WWDC in June. It was a pre-recorded event, but there was a huge in-person element to it where hundreds of developers and media, including ourselves, were invited to go to Apple Park to watch the presentation. Of course, do networking, all that sort of thing, take pictures of Tim Cook, and get hands-on with the new MacBook Air. So I wonder if Apple is, because it feels like, if not now, when, to return to the old style of event, right? I don't know how COVID is going in the US so much, but it feels like if Apple was going to go back to how we used to do events, this would have been the perfect time. It tried WWDC with like a hybrid kind of model, and now it could go back to full. So this kind of says to me, like, I wonder if Apple is just going to stick with the pre-recorded aspect forever, but have an in-person element where you can go to Cupertino. Tim Cook makes a very quick speech. You get to watch the keynote. You can still get hands-on with the products. You can still meet cool people, but everybody gets to see the same polished, because I think we could all agree that the pre-recorded ones, in terms of a spectacle, to cover the images, I think they're way better than the onstage keynotes we used to get. So maybe Apple has decided just to run with that in perpetuity.
I think Apple will continue doing that indefinitely. I mean, for one thing that we've learned from the pandemic is that something like this can happen anytime. I mean, the next, who knows what we're hearing now about monkeypox. I mean, who knows what's coming? But the having the pre-recorded segments just allows Apple to be more nimble and think on their feet. So if something does happen and they need to quickly shift gears, they'll already have this pre-recorded event in the can. And so if the in-person aspect of the event can't happen for whatever reason, at least they'll still have the pre-recorded part. I don't see any downside to keeping the pre-recorded part and just having the in-person element added on.
Because I think even the aspects of the live event that made it unique were all a bit awkward, like waiting for X person to leave the stage and Y person to come onto the stage, or like telling a joke and maybe getting a reaction from the audience or maybe not, or like pausing for laughter and stuff. It's quite nice when you're covering the event because it gives you like a respite between to like catch your breath and stuff. But yeah, I just think overall the pre-recorded stuff is so much better than the in-person presentations
on stage. Yeah, for sure. And plus, when it's on stage, there's always the potential for something to go wrong, for some technology not to work properly.
Face ID didn't work. Do you remember that the year Apple debuted Face ID? The iPhone, it was the iPhone XS, wasn't it? Is that the iPhone 10 when they did like the one more thing.
You know what? I didn't watch it that year because I was working in the Apple Store as it was happening, so we weren't allowed.
I think I watched it in the Apple Store live, but Tim Cook had two phones on stage, and he went to demo Face ID, and the first phone he went to, like, it didn't work, and he had to go to the backup phone. So
that's so funny. Yeah, no, I was literally on the floor working at the time, so I couldn't watch.
I think as well, like, there's been a lot of, like, Apple has had a lot of fun with these. excuse me, especially with like, Craig Federighi,
Mhm.
the
Oh, yeah.
transitions and the different skits and stuff that they do. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. And then I guess the other thing to glean from this is this info is from Mark Gurman again. So Mark is saying we should expect the iPhone 14 and also the Apple Watch Series 8, which kind of seems like a given these days. But yeah, iPhone and Apple Watch. And I think possibly like something else. Like I don't think a 2-product event. I think there will be maybe AirPods or HomePods or something. I'm just spitballing. I don't have any information, but I would like that.
Yeah, once again, it's funny because I keep thinking like AirPods Pro 2 we've been hearing about like being ready or at least like quite far along development for a while now. We've been hearing rumors and to that effect and stuff, and it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if we might see that. It'll be the first AirPods we've seen on stage since the very first one, since all the other AirPods have been launched in just a press release launch.
Yep.
But it would be interesting, especially if they do have like if they have a brand new design, which some people are expecting, and maybe way more intricate features when it comes to like audio and actually maybe somehow being able to take advantage of Apple Music lossless and stuff. So
yeah, and I feel like the pre-recorded format really lends itself to an AirPods presentation more so than presenting these little tiny AirPods on a stage.
Because
there's never thought of that. Yeah,
can go right up into people's ears. They could go do like a camera angle that goes inside the ear, inside the AirPod. They can just really make it cool.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I was thinking like that. One of the reasons why I think we don't see AirPods get released too often on stage is because it is this tiny little thing, and just Tim Cook standing up there on stage. This tiny little thing's not that impressive. And I mean, obviously they have screens behind them, and they always have a digital multimedia presence. But like,
and we've all been there. When Tim Cook drops that AirPod, like it doesn't land where you drop it, like it bounces. And then it bounces again, and then again, and it's like 6 feet in any possible direction that could go to, possibly into the crowd or off the stage. So yeah, not a chance.
Yeah, and there's just that there's not a lot visually in person to really see about a headphone.
It's like how much can you?
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot about it's a lot about how it feels to you, So it's like I understand why they've mostly just been releases. I thought like the AirPods Max was a little interesting that was just a release because I'd say more than an earbud, something like an overhead or an over ear form factor kind of does lend itself a bit because there is like a style element to that and things like that. But still, at the end of the day, they are headphones. What people care about is how they sound and what features they have, kind of thing. So it's not something that you need to show off on stage per se. But yeah, so maybe it will be included in the pre-recorded event is what I'm trying to say.
Just thinking back to our Apple Store days, Karen. It's also very difficult to demo AirPods in person at an event with hundreds of media people, and you're having to like give me those and clean out bits of earwax from people and swap the silicone tips and give them back, and like that is hideous. So that also makes sense as to why they wouldn't be an event.
We were definitely like strongly suggested that we try to get the AirPods into people's ears in order to demonstrate them. So, we had wipes on hand and we would just wipe them, with the sanitation wipes in between customers. This was pre-COVID, but we were still, you definitely want to get them good and clean between customers. But yeah, I imagine trying to do that with thousands of people.
Yeah.
Might be kind of gross.
So we're expecting, what we're hearing is we're expecting the iPhone 14 and the Apple Watch Series 8 in September, but then in October, along with, iPad OS and Mac OS, we might be getting new iPads and perhaps new Macs, and some of those Macs might be Mac Minis.
Yeah.
Which I think
sorry that you took me by surprise there because I'd forgotten about this rumor and I can't see it in the show.
You've forgotten about this rumor.
Look for it.
Yeah.
So I was like, is he going to go for HomePods? And then you said Mac Mini, and I just crumbled. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, Mac Minis could be getting upgrades probably to
Lucas
M2.
Yeah, this is from Mark Gurman from his
M2
newsletter.
And M2 Pro. It is.
Yeah. So that's an interesting perspective because the Apple Studio just launched not too long ago. or sorry, the Apple Studio, the Mac Studio just launched not too long ago, and that came with the M1 Pro Max and the M1 Ultra, because they keep adding on adjectives. But now we're going to an M2 and an M2 Pro version of Mac Minis, which then is kind of crowding that space a little bit. Like, I understand that the M1 Ultra is very powerful, and it's not that an M2 is all of a sudden, just because it has the number 2 in it, doesn't mean it's just going to be miraculously better. But it is kind of making that that little space on your desk for your little Mac PC an interesting product category for Apple, that it's like probably had more choice in it than it probably ever has, really, because it's always kind of been the Mac Mini. But now you kind of have this Mac Mini or the Mac Studio, which kind of just looks like a Mac Mini stacked on top of a Mac Mini with some ports on the on both sides. So
Mark kind of made that suggestion. He said, like, and this wasn't like info. He said it was like a gut feeling, like, was the Mac Studio kind of one and done because of you being squeezed at one end from the Mac Pro and the other end from the expanding and improving Mac Mini. But we had a cool piece go up on the site this week, actually, that I think makes a really good case for the Mac Studio definitely having a place in that Mac lineup, even with the emerging possible new M2 Mac Mini and the M2 Pro Ultra Extreme Mac Pro. Basically, the gist of it is that more choice is better, and the more kind of points you can have to address different needs and stuff like that, the better. So I think it does make sense. But yeah, this is, I think Mark Gurman quite recently said in an interview that Apple had like an M1 Pro and maybe Max version of the Mac Mini, and canned it and is just going straight to the M2. So yeah, this will be an interesting upgrade if it comes, but no design change or anything like that. So same old Mac Mini.
Mm-hmm. But as we know from before, the Mac Mini, when it came to just the regular M1 chip, when they were first launching just M1 chips, it actually got the slightly best performance out of that M1 chip because
with the cooling,
the extra space and the cooling, which is very important to chips. So it'll be interesting to see if that's also the same for the M2, or if there's been even more improvements on the thermal ends that maybe the extra space or cooling isn't as big of a deal. So I'm interested to see if it's still kind of like the Mac Mini reigns supreme, and like getting the bit more that you can get out of that chip in that form factor, which I think is pretty cool. I always thought that the Mac Mini.
Go on, Luke.
I always thought that the Mac Mini was a really, like, if I didn't love iMacs so much, I just love the all-in-ones. I think it's just a nostalgia thing at this point, but I do love my M1 iMac a lot. But it's like the Mac Mini is probably the computer that I would get if I was, if I didn't just love this iMac so much. I think it's
a great plug and play as well. You could, if you've got an old Mac Mini, you could buy the new one and put your new one in where the old one was. It's not like a studio where you're thinking, do I need to get like the studio display or something to make visual use of all of this, processing power and stuff like that. You can justify. I think that's the thing for me. Like you, I love the Mac Mini as well, but I can't think of a monitor that I would want to put it with that like matches the Apple design, apart from the Mac Studio, the Studio Display, which would be total overkill. Whereas the iMac, you get that performance, but also the Apple designed, the experience of sitting at the desk and stuff. So
so it'd be interesting to see if we actually do see new Mac Minis. I think it's definitely a possibility. I think it's one of the ones that it kind of like came out shortly after the M1 as well. So I think it's or was it launched with the M1? Now I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was M1. Here's the M1 chip. Here's a MacBook Air, a MacBook Pro, and a Mac Mini. This would be the last. This should probably be the end of Intel options in Macs, because there's an Intel Mac Mini still.
Yes.
So I would imagine Apple will bump down the M1 version into where the Intel versions sit and give us higher options there.
Yeah, which I think would be a good move, kind of like what they did with the MacBook Air, especially if some cost increase are going into the price of the M1 Mac Mini, or the M2, Mac Mini, which I think is possible considering what we've seen kind of sort of across the lineup. Now we'll get to Stephen. Now we'll talk about HomePods if you want. Let's talk about HomePods. Yeah, where apparently Apple might be working on up to 4 new home devices, and that could include new HomePods, plural.
Yeah, we've heard quite a bit about these, so we have to get like too into the weeds with it. But we've previously heard that there's maybe a big new HomePod coming to replace the old new HomePod. So Mark Gurman says that Apple probably has something quite high end in the works to replace the old one that was discontinued. But we've also heard that it's probably not going to change much in the way of design. It might have the new S8 processor, so the one coming in the next Apple Watch. Mark Gurman also says that a new update for the HomePod Mini is also in the works. So that's 2 of your 4. And then aside from that, there is 2 brand new devices that we've never seen before. So one is like a kitchen kind of HomePod that combines like an iPad and a speaker as sort of like a hub for watching videos, making recipes, communicating, all of that sort of thing. And then finally, there's a living room-ish HomePod that is more Apple TV plus camera plus HomePod. So some kind of home entertainment hub, including the speaker and the TV and the camera connectivity aspects of it. So yeah, possibly 4 new products, at least one of which could come out by the end of next year. So I don't think these are imminent, to say.
Okay, so why do you want a camera on your television?
Make video calls, gaming, possibly. You remember iToy or
Like
Connect and stuff like that?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
And also communication, I think, is maybe the ship has sailed a bit with the pandemic.
I'm just imagining like a Zoom call on a screen, like a 50-inch screen. It seems like a lot, but I guess
people do that, like in offices and stuff like that as well. There's a commercial application there as well. That's video, like conferencing and stuff like that. Yeah, I
guess when you're talking to 25 people, it makes sense.
Yes, but a bit strange to FaceTime your nan or something while you're
like have your aunt's face on the screen.
Yeah,
like 20 inches tall,
55-inch 4K glory. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I don't think I would want anyone to see my face that big. So,
but yeah, the only disappointing thing about this is nothing sounds like it's coming anytime soon. It's 2023, maybe 2024. So who knows? I would like to see a new big HomePod. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think Apple's been trying to figure out what they want to do with HomePods. I think, with and I think they still maybe they're just trying to figure it out and now they're going a direction. So I'm fine with waiting a bit. I agree. It's a little disappointing, especially like I actually love my HomePod Mini quite a bit. I got one for my little apartment. It's kind of like perfect. It's like the perfect size for my little home speaker when I want to listen to music. It's pretty like it's not portable as in it has to always be plugged in, but like you can move it around your house pretty easily if you want to, which I do. Like I'll put it in the kitchen when I'm making dinner and then I'll put it in the living room when I'm chilling there or whatever. And it doesn't take that long to set up and stuff, and it's been really good. And I never had the full size HomePod, but how they've managed to get those little ones to sound, I'm always like, man, the big ones just must be awesome. Like they just must be incredible.
Yeah.
I also have the Mini, and I never had the full size HomePod, and it does sound really good. It's surprising for such a small device, but I feel like Apple's taking cues from like Amazon with having all these different devices to choose from, with screens, without screens, bigger, smaller, with different functionality. So it's interesting that Apple sounds like Apple's going to be sort of splitting the lineup like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's good. Choices are good, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I've always kind of been excited about some sort of, HomePod like TV, like HomePod soundbar / Apple TV hybrid. I always thought that sounded like a really cool product. Because it would kind of, cover home entertainment, but then also cover like all the HomePod and Siri stuff that you can do and shortcuts and so all sort of that stuff. So that would be like probably if that comes to pass, if there's something that sort of does that, which they're talking about, that would be the one, and I'm sure it would be quite expensive, but that would probably be the one that would pique my interest the most.
Yeah,
so here,
I think that would be the most exciting product, the sort of the Apple TV HomePod blend.
Yeah. And I think it's because like we've been talking about before how like the Apple TV product line and both the HomePod product line are kind of in need of some sort of a big refresh in some way, and kind of
It
combining
would be
them
the
like
golden
that would be
doodle
cool.
of
Yeah.
entertainment technology.
Yeah, totally. Kim Kardashian somehow is always in the news, but is somehow in Apple news, which is interesting. But she's created her own Beats Fit Pro, which, as everyone knows, Beats are owned by Apple, and so they are an extension of Apple. They have a lot of the same utility that AirPods do, which is great. So Kim K has her own line.
She wanted to
Beats.
come on the show to talk about them, but we told her she wasn't important enough.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that
I just
totally
wanted
happened.
I feel like I need to defend poor Kim K, because I put out a poll just to kind of see how our viewers were, or how our readers are interested, if they're interested in these particular Beats Fit Pro, and the poll showed overwhelmingly that people are not at all interested. Like with over 90%.
Did it go up from 90%? Oh gosh, yeah.
91%.
That's fair enough. They're quite niche, and I think as many people, there are probably quite a few people that were like, just buy these because they are Kim X Beats. Probably quite a lot of people who would choose not to buy them for that exact reason,
Yes.
which is fine.
Based on the comments.
Yeah.
Based on the comments that came along with the tweets, it is specifically, it's not the colors that people object to, it's specifically the Kim Kardashian part,
which is odd because they're not like branded in any way. They just look like Beats Fit Pro in 3 fairly neutral skin tones. Same price, same features. There's nothing extra there. It's literally just kind of 3 colors: Moon, June, and Earth. One of those is light, medium, and kind of dark. I think they were described as in the press release.
Very neutral, very skin tone. They're not colors that appeal to me personally, because I like if I'm choosing a color, I'm always going to choose like a pink or a purple or like something fun. But but there are people who just want something that sort of skin tone that just sort of blends into their ear. So it's not like, hey, I'm wearing earbuds, like just very kind of quiet and subtle. And I think that's great. It's great to have those options. Everybody should get the color that they like. And I love that they did like different skin tones, like not just one. So I think
the best way to describe them is you can't see them in the press photos with Kim wearing them. That's kind of how
my first thought was, where are they? Like I see Kim, where are the earbuds?
You have to look you have to look very hard closely to find them.
Karen, to your point, I'll say this. So, think what you want about Kim Kardashian. That's fine. You can have opinions about her all you want. But like, I think this is something that, I actually kind of think this is a bit of an overlooked market. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily huge, but like we know in society that, skin tones, especially, non-white skin tones, are not always well represented in tons of products. Remember when Band-Aids were only, peach, like white colored, that happened for so long, right?
Yeah.
Emojis. The skin color Band-Aids for my entire childhood were just like my skin tone, like just very white.
Yeah. And I think I like you said, I think these options for people who want them and for people who see that, to see that represented, I think means a lot to a lot of people. And I think, regardless of whether this comes from Kim K or not, I think that's great. To add to another layer to this too, is that like Beats have always sort of been like a kind of a bit of a fashion sound brand, right? Like that was really how it started, even before Apple bought them, right? When Beats by Dre first came out, Beats were always kind of like associated with like a style, and they were very much like a style, like a status symbol and a style symbol. And I think like having, this isn't the first collab they've, collab Apple's done with other celebrities and stuff, but like having collabs like this makes sense for the brand. And I think like it still keeps it like unique from what Apple is. On top of like, some of the feature differences and design differences and stuff. But because like they obviously Apple wants to keep the Beats brand around, or else they would have just rolled them all into like AirPods branded stuff already. And so I think this is this is what you do with these brands. You get fashion icons. You get stars to collab with you to make things that people find interesting, and hopefully like people also resonate with. So from a pure like product business standpoint, I think this is like a no-brainer. Like it's kind of like a slam dunk, really, when it comes to it. Are they going to sell like gangbusters? Probably not, but they're going to sell to people who want them for whatever reason, and people are going to be happy that they exist. So
and if you do want them,
like I said,
they'll be out August 16th. So that's next Tuesday in the US, Canada, the UK, France, Germany, and Japan for the same price as Beats Fit Pro are normally. Although the regular ones are currently reduced on Apple's website to $179.
There you go. Right before we end the show, we have a few minutes left. With the, we've talked a lot about the September event coming up. We're expecting an Apple Watch Series 8. So last week we talked kind of about like what does the iPhone 14 sort of have to do to kind of like woo us? What are we really hoping to see? So let's do that with the Apple Watch Series 8. And I'll go first so you guys have a second to collect your thoughts. Mine is kind of more towards what we're hearing about the Apple Watch Pro or Rugged or Sports Edition or Explorer or whatever it ends up being called. If that is something that happens, I think I'm really going to be interested in what the battery life is going to be, because if you look in the space that Apple is trying to target with that, like battery life is huge. And like, we're talking like multi-day life, like weeks life for some of these things, like Garmin smartwatches and things like that have like, like 7 days at least, if not longer, of battery life. Right. And I think that's really going to be important to if Apple's pushing into that space. That's one of the biggest improvements that need to come. I obviously would love some battery improvements on like the normal Apple Watch as well, but it's not as important for what I think like a normal Apple Watch user does. I don't think you necessarily need much more than like the day and a half-ish it gives you, or the day it gives you. If you got in your charging routine, it kind of makes sense. Usually at night for a lot of people, but some people, early morning or however, when they have the couple hours to charge it. But if you're pushing into that pro market, if you're trying to get into that sport market, like battery life is like at like the utmost importance, because you don't want to be out on your trek wherever you are, and have to be trying to find, places to charge in the mountains or in the forests or wherever you find yourself. So I think that's the thing I'm most keen on to see where the improvements will be in battery life for the Apple Watch Pro.
Nice.
Steven.
So I was going to say similarly on that vein, but slightly different, is the low power mode that we were promised. Now, we kind of thought this was coming in WatchOS 9, basically just a way to use your watch when it's in low power mode and it not become completely useless. I wouldn't be surprised if this pops up as like not a hardware feature, but one for future watches. So I would love to see Apple Watch Series 8 or the SE or the Pro get not just the improved battery life like Luke is talking about, but a low power mode that actually functions. So you can still, if your watch goes into low power mode, you can keep tracking your workout or keep listening to the music to the detriment of whatever else the watch needs to get rid of in order to keep running. But yeah, for me, the low power thing still really holds the Apple Watch back. So obviously battery life plays a part in that, but the battery will drain at some point. So when it does, I would like to see more functionality in the low power mode. So I think maybe low power mode is like a hardware thing or attached to the future Apple Watches coming, rather, because we didn't get it in WatchOS 9, but I think we know it's out there. So yeah. Karen?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what both of you guys are saying. I'd love to see both of those, but I'd also like to see more health features. I mean, it seems to be the way the Apple Watch is going. Particularly for me, I would like to see a temperature sensor, just to kind of a heads up if you're running a fever or how high your fever is. I know, those of us who have had COVID, I mean, fever is one of it's definitely one of the early warning signs, you might say. And when I had it, I definitely had a fever. I knew I had a fever, but I could not drag myself out of bed to go downstairs and sterilize the thermometer and take my temperature and I just couldn't be bothered with it. So people say, well, how high was your fever? I'm like, I have no idea. I had a fever. It was high. It was whatever. Whereas if you had your temperature being taken on your Apple Watch, you would be able to track like minute by minute, like what your temperature was doing. And that would be helpful to have. But just in general, there are a lot of health features that we would love to see. Like some of our colleagues are diabetic, and to have to keep track of your blood sugar with needles, and we all know that's a big, it's a difficult thing. So it would be nice if the Apple Watch could somehow monitor that. We've been hearing about that for years, and it hasn't quite happened yet. But hopefully things like that will come.
Well, hopefully we're all happy campers come next month. That's our show. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live, once again, next week, we will also be doing it live on Thursday at the 11 a.m. Eastern time. So come back on Thursday. If you're listening to us not live, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. It's going to be there as it normally is, so don't worry about that. And thank you, Jim Metzendorf, our audio editor, who always makes us sound so good. And until next week, we will say adieu. Goodbye.